the meeting. This is a regular meeting, Moose Lake City Council for Wednesday, December 20th at 4 p.m. And I'd like to start with Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all our guests here tonight. Thanks for coming. The next item is approval of the agenda. I have one change on it, and that is under new business M. You can cross that out. That will be at a later council meeting. And also, that goes along with it, we were going to have a closed session to discuss that contract, so that'll be taken off also. And I'd like to explain, before we approve it, just explain everyone on number 5, the truth in taxation public hearing. That'll happen at 6 p.m. and that is by state law. So we'll go through the agenda, and at 6 o'clock, if we finish before then, we will go into recess and have the public hearing and come out of it after the public hearing. And at that time, we would be approving the budget and all the items that have to be done by motion in the budget. So just for everyone's understanding how that works. I had asked Kelly, what is your timeline tonight for you? Because the item, we have the city police is near the end of the new business. Are you on a tight?
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah, are you on a tight? Are you on a tight?
No, I am not.
Okay, because I can move it.
I am fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
So, any other changes or additions, corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Under the consent agenda, 2A, the minutes. Number 1, we have the regular city council meeting for November 8th, 2023. Number 2, the planning commission meeting, November 28th, 2023. Number 3, the special city council meeting for November 29th, 2023. Do we have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, the motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 2B, financial reports, we've got a city accounts payable for November 2023. Number 2, the city financial statements, November 2023. Number 3, the municipal liquor store profit loss statement for November 2023. Are there any questions or discussion on the financial reports? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the financial reports?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 3, this is a public comment time. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. Anyone present? Hearing none, we'll move on. Departmental reports for a police chief. Department report for November 2023.
Members of the council, mayor, Ms. Owens. This is the November 2023 council report. We had 183 calls in November. 3 of them were business checks, which is fairly low for business checks. We're definitely going to be working on getting that upped. 39 extra patrols. The business checks and extra patrols kind of either or, they're one or the other. So some of the business checks may have turned into extra patrols. 68 traffic stops. There was 114 last month. 10 community engagements. There was 9 last month. Calls to respond. We had 6 assist to other agencies. Same amount from last month. 50 calls for service, 73 last month. I added on a vehicle theft and a vehicle damage being tampered with because we don't get many of those. In fact, we don't get those much at all. We had 1 of each of those, none reported last month, and 5 medical calls, only 7 last month. Calls for service have gone down. It's getting colder. It's winter time. They tend to go down in the winter. 183 this month, 253 last month. And it was at the very end of last month we received a call from the owner of the mini storage. His people at the mini storage are calling him to tell him that people are breaking into the mini storage. I told him to tell them to make sure to call 911. So now the mini storage is being tampered with and being broken into. So sadly, people are picking up on the fact that we don't have full night coverage. We had a meeting and we're working on that. We're prioritizing night shifts. We're going to try and keep night shifts covered as much as possible. And I think that's a good idea because that's when stuff's happening. It's happening at night when we're missing an officer. So we're working on prioritizing that, getting as many of those, if not all, covered as we can. Picked up another part-timer, State Patrol Officer, Aru Hopkins, started working. He's liking it, so he says he's going to be picking up shifts. So, working things as best we can at this point. Any questions for me?
It's a storage up by
Yeah, up by the
Catholic Church.
yep, right next to the Catholic Church. Yep, yep. And for some reason, they called the owner instead of calling 911. I talked to him. I told him, yeah, we really need to get him to call us so we know what's happening and not finding out about it third hand. Nothing major, just a couple of locks broken off and some of the doors tampered with. It doesn't sound like anything major happened, but still people are tampering. So, yes, sir.
I see on here on the report that there's a lot of the locations where the incidents have happened that are missing. The street names and stuff like that.
Okay, I guess I didn't realize that. And is that specific for any one of the things, like an extra patrol, or is it all of them?
Well, on the report here, there's just some that are missing. And
Okay.
We have a lot of them that are in there, and then there's some that are missing.
Okay.
on where-
I will, that might be some of the new part-timers. They're not as up to date. They don't use Zerker. The part-timers we have, a lot of them are state patrol officers. They don't use the same programs we do. So we have to train them how to use our program. So that could possibly be them. But I will definitely look into that because no, we're definitely going to want to know where this stuff is being done at. I guess I didn't realize that.
Any other questions from council? Yes, sir.
There was communication with Laura Sutter from the League of Minnesota Cities on the wellness.
Yes.
Where are we at? You're going to give us.
Right now, Taylor is actually doing a very good job of getting that up and running. I'm helping wherever I can. I'm looking into trying to find law enforcement specific psychiatric and therapy type. I believe there's 1 or 2 in Duluth. I'm looking to get information for that. And then passing on what training that law enforcement specific for us yearly for debriefing and critical incidents and things like that. But it's, as far as I know, it's going pretty well. Taylor's doing a very good job with it. I passed on the email that I got from the League of Minnesota Cities to Taylor, and she ran with it and is doing a very good job getting it up and running.
Maybe Alyssa, you could give a little update on the meeting we had yesterday on that.
Yeah, we do have, we're having internal meetings regarding the wellness program. Like Chief Patterson stated, Taylor has taken the lead on it, so we're looking at the different categories. There's 5 different categories. We're gonna combine 2 to have 4. We're gonna focus on a different category element every quarter. looking at implementing a schedule that kind of coordinates with our obligations and/or what we can do as a city to promote wellness and all different types of wellness, whether it's financial wellness or emotional well-being, things of that nature. So we're gonna have a calendar that we are able to present to council. We do have a January 1st timeline, so we're gonna have additional meetings as a, internal committee, and then with department heads to make sure that we can implement it in a timely fashion. We are utilizing our resources, whether it be the League of Minnesota Cities, local financial advisors, whatever it may be, the county as well, to gather information and make sure that we have every element covered. So we'll have something to present here in a timely fashion. Most likely, you're going to see it first via email as a council, and then for formal approval in January. But we will be able to meet our deadline, and so that's something that we prioritized in the background, and from an administrative standpoint, are making sure that we accomplish that.
Yeah, it's not only for police department, it's for citywide. So it's a comprehensive program that'll cover everybody. So it's moving along, which is good.
It is. We do have some of the components in play already, but it's just making sure that we have identified it within, a written document, that we have a coordinated schedule, and that we are able to hit every metric that we need to meet as a city and as an employer. So.
Any other questions, council?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to both the officers for a good job. Appreciate it. Moving on to 4B, City Superintendent Phil Etner.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Administrator Owens, we're not having any snow, it's been extremely busy. We've mowed right-of-ways and ditches we never even had, so I guess it's one way to make sure we're staying up on maintenance all the way around the city. Starting the water department distributed 5.7 million gallons drinking water in the month of November. I'm currently working on our submittals for our MDH Source Water Protection Grant, which I've achieved now to get 4 years in a row. We're gonna put together a plan for that. Hopefully we have the same success we have had in the past. Moving on the sewer department collection system, we were at 10.3 million gallons of wastewater the month of November. We will be having a new wastewater permit, sewer permit per se for the BCA. That's going to spark a whole lot of different tasks we're going to have to do as a city. We're working through some of those already. That goes into effect the first of the year. Sanitary sewer lining project for 2023 has happened today, believe it or not. It's for December. It's actually extremely busy, which is good, but we're getting there. Engineering group, myself, admin, we're working on planning the 2024 sewer lining project, so we can move into that right away next year as fast as we can, get it off the bid. It's moving. The treatment facility, we did have a small discharge out there this year. For this fall, we typically don't, but we had to have one. We chose to do one just to make sure we had adequate capacity. I don't know what snow's going to bring. I don't know what flooding's going to look like. I don't know what precipitation is going to look like in the spring, so we want to be prepared. That went through, everything was good, the lab was happy, the state's happy, so we're good there. Street department, obviously, is great, no snow and ice, everyone loves that, right? That's sweet, so it's also good in the budget. With that being said, the cemeteries, the parks, and campground cemeteries are all winterized for the year. We didn't have a burial last month at all. We did hear there's a couple coming up in January, so we'll have a little bit of action there. Campground, that is completely winterized. The bathhouse renovation is, I'd say, about 50% done. We'll have all of our products purchased by the end of the year. We will be housing them for a short period of time until they're ready to go in for install. Your public works crew is going to be doing the majority of that work as well. It's going to save us a bunch of money. So that's awesome. Parks are all shut down for the year, and the arena is running at full capacity. Things are going well there. There's always little twerks that we can do there to make things better, and we're trying to do those to the best of our ability to try to save a little bit of money if we can. And then recycling check. That is completed, and we're waiting for one fiber switch, and then we can fire up that point of sale system that we're going to be using, and then everything will be back in effect. So it's been a busy year, and we're literally stretching it out to the last day, it looks like, seems like in the year, but we're getting it all done. So any questions?
Maybe some news on the Mighty Ducks for the arena.
Yeah, I was just contacted by the Hockey Association president, and she informed me that it looks like they funded the Mighty Ducks grant again. And so we are going to work with our city engineers in order to get an application in for the Mighty Ducks grant.
And that would be hopefully the compressors.
Yes,
Yes.
it was, the biggest thing funded was for elimination of R-22 refrigerant,
Yeah,
Yep.
which we qualify for, so.
that would be a huge,
Yep.
huge win. to
Once we
get
get an application complete, we'll make sure that council has visibility to the application. In addition, Superintendent Etner mentioned the bath renovation. We're gonna make sure that all of the items are purchased and everything is invoiced out to make sure that we compartmentalize the capital project within 2023. So we'll be able to accomplish that. Install will be the only thing that's carried over into 2024, and again, that'll be facilitated by our Public Works Department, which is amazing because we're gonna save a bunch of money there. So that project will be completed within the calendar year as well. So we've officially wrapped up all of our capital projects other than installation.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. The expenditures will be taken care of by
Correct.
the end of this year. yes.
Any questions? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Municipal Liquor Store Department Report, November 2023, and the MMDA operational review.
Good evening, City Council. Mayor Shaw, Administrator Owens. Yeah, Mari is doing a great job. I'll reiterate that. We are continuing to make improvements with our point of sale and efficiencies. We have another meeting set up with them, Keystroke, next Thursday. You did receive an email from Brenda, who the MMDA was very nice in sending our way. There's probably way too much to go over in there, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask, or, you know, we can go over it in the next liquor board meeting as well. Questions? All right.
Just a comment, it sounds
Yes,
like
sir.
there's a lot of information, as you stated.
Yep.
It seems like there's 8,000 that was gonna be saved already for next
Correct.
year, just because of things that weren't being done.
Yep.
And, so another $1,000 annual increase in more checks and balances.
Process, pricing, checks and balances, we covered quite a bit. And then on to the next phase, which would be some server training for all staff. So I have a link here for some Learn to Serve. It's just a online training for servers. It's only $15 per person, so we're gonna go ahead and do that, and they'll get printed the certificate, and it'll help with our liability insurance. So that's the next phase.
Just a quick question, you know when the annual inventory for the uni will be done?
It'll still continue on January 1st.
January 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions from the council? Hearing none, thank you, Ryan, appreciate it.
Welcome.
Technology and library?
Library update. Let's see here. Laura's winter reading program starts this coming week. They have posters up. As far as her local support requirement, which is what she's required to spend on an annual basis, she's right in line, so that looks great. And their next meeting is January 8th.
Any questions, council? Anything else?
IT related, part of the cybersecurity stuff that we're doing. There was a test phishing email that went out to some people. And there's some training included with that. So if anyone's talking about that, please click on the training and take it.
All right.
I sent out an email about it too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you very much,
Thank you.
appreciate it, Ryan. Under 4E, city engineer monthly update for December 7th.
Well, yes, council received the monthly update meeting minutes for the city's engineering meeting. I just wanted to highlight a couple of items in here. The city is engaging in current design for the residential development with our city engineers. So In addition to working on a development agreement, we are also engaging with them to maximize the acreage up there, looking at, you know, how many housing units can fit in there, what does that look like? We have a wetland delineation process that's currently occurring in addition to some topography reports, so lots of activity there. We'll continue to keep council updated. As it sits right now, we're gonna go back to the drawing board, so that both the developer and the city engineers have been engaging as we get additional information for wetlands and topography. Then we go back to the design phase and make sure that the current design as it sits right now is adequate. We look at lot sizes, roadways, things of that nature. So we'll continue to do that work in the background, but then provide council with updates as soon as it becomes relevant and we have working documents to go off of. So that's been exciting. We do have a ordinance we'll be looking at later on in the meeting. Again, planning already for the 2024 lining project has been underway. And I believe that's it. A couple of these items we're going to touch on as full agenda items later on in the meeting.
You should state we also have notice to start negotiating with the sewer district.
Yeah, I did have a meeting with the chair of the sewer district. I have gotten the green light to engage with our city engineers in a revised contract for a significant industrial user agreement with the district. That is a requirement, a permit requirement for us. So we have asked our city engineers to prioritize that SIU agreement in addition to the one with DOC. And so both of those are kind of moving up the priority list as far as activity with our city engineers. So we'll have more to share with that. But we are engaging in those agreements with those entities as well.
Maybe just a quick message for the development that we're talking about. We're talking about, it's about 30 acres south of Quick Trip that the school property or the school district owned that have sold it to the city. So it's that area right behind Quick Trip that the administrator was talking about. So hopefully good things, good development, and hopefully start this spring.
Absolutely.
Chamber Conference update. I know none of us could make it to the chamber meeting this month. I know they have their annual meeting coming up in January.
Yeah. No city employees were able to attend the meeting this past week. There was a ribbon cutting event at the Squirrel Cage. I would recommend anybody interested in looking for event information or upcoming holiday festivities and or chamber activities to please check their website. So they do a great job of keeping that up to date. And we'll share additional information.
Thank you. The next item is the truth and taxation that will happen at 6 p.m. So all of 5 will happen at that time. So we'll move on to 6 previously discussed business. This is ordinance number 171 and ordinance amending ordinance number 127. An ordinance establishing use and rate regulations for municipal wastewater treatment facilities of the city of Moose Lake.
Yes, so council, this is the second reading of ordinance 171. Just to provide a summary for the public, it is a modification of a current ordinance that we have that deals with rate regulations for our wastewater treatment facilities. What we're working on is the ability to establish a service charge. That service charge will then be a foundation of billing that will help keep rate increases lower moving forward and or more moderate. So working on the implementation of this ordinance in order to be able to give way to future billing and foundational opportunities within the sewer fund.
Does the council have any questions on the ordinance after?
Just want to comment that this isn't something new for just the city of Moose Lake. There's all the surrounding area
Correct.
already have this and have had it, so.
Yeah.
Correct. We will be, after the second reading, we will be publishing this ordinance in the newspaper on the city website. And so we'll make sure that the information is shared publicly. We do have another reading in January prior to formal adoption.
Council have any questions on the ordinance at this time? Thank you. Moving on to 7, new business. Mark Lampert. Sand Lake Resort, sewer capacity request discussion.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, Ted, Administrator Owens. Just wanted to give a little update and just remind you that we're here waiting patiently. Short answer, we have the resort over on Sand Lake. After about a 2.5-year tussle with the DNR, I was originally permitted for 49. We received permission to proceed with 40. So that was a concession in order to kind of get us out of litigation and get us moving, and I feel like we're in a good place. With that said, I currently have 25 hookups under the sewer district, so we are looking for 15 hookups, which equates to 5,377 gallons. I would guess that we probably wouldn't actively use those gallons until 25 or 2026. But in order for us to proceed with our development, we need to have an agreement that we do have the capacity coming at that time. So I understand that it is not entirely your purview. On the other hand, I feel a little bit like a child with 2 parents, right? I got a mother and a father, and I know ultimately where the material is headed, but I need to send it in a pipe to get it here. So I'm working very diligently with both entities, and would ask that if there's an opportunity somewhere along the way for the City Council to have a resolution to find those 5,377 gallons, that's really helpful to me. I think the ability to have a resolution like that would put the district in a position where they would be obligated to give me those gallons in that capacity.
Well, the good news is that they actually agreed to open the contract, and that just happened. And so that was great news for us.
So, well, we're excited, and obviously, I know that I can't somehow not be involved in that contract, but on the other hand, to the extent that I find myself in the middle of things, I sure would not mind being taken out of that position and sent along my way. So I'm excited for what we have. We've got a 2-story, 40-unit resort. It'll probably be something around $10–12 million. Very proud of what we approved. It's very close to what I had wanted to do, which is some nice studios, 1s, 2, and 3-bedroom units. We're going to have daily, weekly, monthly rentals. My goal is not to be in the daily rental program. I really would prefer to see some long-timers, and to that extent, we're adding 40 underground parking spaces in this facility. So the opportunity to have some year-round, daily, weekly, monthly housing is really going to be good. We've met all the setbacks. We're all the 75 feet off the shoreline. We're all the other requirements the DNR had. So I think if you have an interest sometime, let me know. I'm sure happy to share the plans. And so as soon as I can kind of get our permitting resolved with respect to the sewer capacity, we're at green light.
Council, any questions?
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here.
So thank you guys very much. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your capacity and what you guys do with that wastewater plant.
You're
I
doing
can
a
imagine
great
it's not
job.
easy. So thank you, Phil.
I can share with council that at our last city engineering meeting, we did discuss, normally we update our sewer pond capacity memo 1 time a year. It happens in that September-October range, and we do then provide an update to council. We have done that. What we discussed at our last engineering meeting is adding on October, November, and December flows. So we'll be providing council with an entire update throughout 2023 as soon as those figures are available. We're going to be sending them back to the engineers, and then they will then produce an updated memo. Just with everything that's going on and us looking into our SIUs and the ordinance or the capacity request from the district, we want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information to be able to share and make decisions with. So I will most certainly provide that to council as soon as that becomes available, and that's something that we're working on in the background.
questions from the council? Thank you. Under B, it says Mark Anderson, but it should say Mike.
Right.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So yeah, Mike Anderson, good evening, council, Mayor Ted. So we own Arts Cafe building, bought from Cheryl about 3 years ago. Barbecue lasted about a year, so it's been empty for 2 years. Just recently, we were fortunate enough to cross paths with the owner operators of El Mexico in Sandstone. Has anybody been there yet, or?
Yep.
They're bringing people to town in what, 3 months? Open? 2 months. 2 months, they've created a destination in town. So, we've been to Sandstone, they don't have the traffic count, I ran those actually for these folks. So in front of Arts, we're over 8,000 average per day. In front of the place down there, they're just over 4,000. They've got a lot of interest in bringing their food to town, so. And it says liquor license on the thing, right? So people go there we've been to Pedro's, all of us, we don't go there for their margaritas, we go there for food. Same scenarios, what they're asking for this, so. Not gonna have a bar that people wanna go there for the food, have a margarita, they really want that as an option. If they want to drink, they go across the street to the city, you know? So, not sure how it's gonna go on your end, you guys are gonna do something they gotta vote on, discuss, come back later,
We'll discuss it, we'll be discussing it now.
okay?
We're gonna put, if you're, I think everyone understands what we're asking for. So we'll open up for discussion with the council for questions.
Let me ask real quick, is there any intention of pouring drinks and having beer on tap or anything of that nature? Potentially in the future? And this liquor license wouldn't be needed to open, correct? Okay.
So what we have in place with other establishments around town is we do have the 3-2 licenses where there's, you know, other retailers in town that are selling beer. We have the brewery in town as well. We also have a wine license, one that we've issued. The city technically has 2 liquor licenses, and so there is one available at this time. The council does have the ability to determine what's covered under that liquor license or what's approved by motion under that liquor license. But we also just went through our annual process of renewals for our beer and wine and tobacco as well. And so there's a couple of different components at play here, and there's a couple of different levels and metrics that can be built in as far as council's desire to issue an additional liquor license and what that looks like.
So the main alcohol would be the margaritas, correct?
Margaritas, E1, Maine,
3-2, what, 3-2 beer?
3-2 beer, not strong.
We're gonna stronger beer is Mexican beer. Corona.
Oh,
That's over 32.
yeah, the Mexican style beers, they probably don't have 3-2.
Okay, so I think the council understands, so open for discussion. Questions?
Mexican beer is strong beer.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Mexican beer is strong beer.
Okay.
So that's you're basically talking a regular liquor license.
Uh-huh.
So once
Well, you could-
once they have a regular liquor license, they can sell anything.
Not necessarily by motion, you could do beer and margaritas only. You and not other hard liquors.
I think it comes down to what they need, and
That would be the question, what do they need, or what do they want to be able to sell?
I know margaritas, obviously. The
Yeah,
Modelo's, Coronas, those Mexican style beers, yeah, I know they're strong, yeah. Wine,
I mean, a lot of people like to drink scotch and like Jim Beam, Windsor, Jack Daniels, mixed drinks. That'd be one mixed drinks, another one margarita, another one beer, and the other one is wine. So those 4 are very popular.
Okay,
Some people like margaritas, some people no.
right.
So they drink scotch or whiskey or beer. Yeah, but it'd be nice if we can have all those options.
Council?
You're saying we have 2 liquor licenses available and there's 1 open. And if we gave this one out, what would the situation be for like future development if somebody wanted to get another one like this? Would there be another one available at that time? Is that something that the council would look into at that time?
Yeah, and there's a process with the state to acquire more licenses and or process through council in the city as well. And so if we could take the time to look into what that process looks like, I think right now it would be really helpful to have an established request, a list, you know,
Okay.
for review. That would be really helpful. And so we could essentially gather additional information and revisit the topic if council would like.
I think do you have a deadline that you're working?
They don't come to town about this. And the building sits empty.
I mean, let's say that the council needs a month to look into the license and the alcohol and so forth.
They're
There's
okay?
no rush.
They're okay.
I guess I'd like to table it till next month with getting more information from them, a list of what you would like.
Okay,
And,
Yeah, a menu, a list, a drink menu, whatever that looks like, as much information as you could possibly provide would be helpful.
okay. No problem.
Are they selling the alcohol in Sandstone?
Yes.
Okay, so they would already have a list. It'd
Right.
be real easy
That's
to
correct.
get to.
Correct.
Okay,
So if you could get to the office and the administration will get it out to the council, and that'll give them time to look at it, and next month it'll be on the agenda.
That sounds great.
is your list online? Drink list?
No.
Okay, we'll get it.
Okay.
In the meantime, I will look into what is required as far as acquiring additional licenses to be able to distribute as a city, and so I will have more information to provide on that.
Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I don't. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You know, I think it'd be great bringing that to this town. Create another reason for people to come to this
I'd
town.
love to see that building being used.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, we know what happened in less than 2 months in Sandstone. I mean, they're unbelievably successful already.
I
So,
have a question just on like parking there.
Yeah.
Because I know, that entrances and exits are on other people's things.
so on the
They're
south
gonna be-
side, the cut curb to get into the haircut, or
Yep.
the property line is approximately on the north edge of that curb, okay? And then it extends north for quite some ways, actually. If you look at a plat, it's sizable parking, very large parking area, so, yeah.
Yeah, once they're established by the state, they're used by both businesses.
Yeah,
Well, I just know, like when you talk about Pedro's, their new place, their
Yeah.
parking is so small and the cars are all over the roads and
Yeah.
side streets, and there really isn't side streets there to park on, so.
we have a good neighbor to the north, so
Okay.
could work out free tacos or something, right?
Yeah.
So,
There's actually a parking lot behind them too.
for the trail?
It's never used.
No, the city owns that, I think, don't you? Well, the city owns that?
Yeah.
The alley or something they
I
call it?
believe that is our, part of the Munger Trail
Oh,
parking and stuff. yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Good. All right.
And, there will be an agenda then.
thank you much.
Thank you.
Right?
Proposal for audit services discussion?
Thank you for having me back up.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't aware, CLA is no longer able to provide auditing services for the city. This is primarily due to staffing. They lost 2 of their key auditors, so they just aren't able to rearrange things and handle us. So we've been scrambling in the last month, looking for other auditing quotes. I do have 2 that's provided in the packet. One is from Westburg Ishins, and then one is from RSM. And if I may, I'll just go through what I see as the pros and cons of each. We'll start with Westburg Ishins. The pros are, they come in probably half as much as the other quote. So financially, that makes sense. The downside would be they will need us to file an extension with the state. I've already talked to the state, and they're fine with that because they're seeing a lot of cities and counties having this problem. So all I need to do is send an email requesting that, and they would grant it. The other con would be they would not have someone here for a January 1 audit down at the liquor store. Again, this is not a requirement, they'll just come later and do it, but we would still hold our audit and conduct it. As far as RSM, the pros would be, they actually were the city's auditors 10 years ago, so they are familiar with us. They would also be able to meet all of the state guidelines and the time frame. We would not need to file for an extension, and then the cons would be, how much they're quoting. I wonder how much maybe Westburg Ishins is undershooting, potentially added hours that they would need, and RSM is more accurate just because they're familiar with us. So, I guess, there's three options here. We could go with Westburg or RSM, or the third option would be that you say neither and just keep at it, and if we can't find someone that we really like, then we have the state auditor's office coming out at us. That would also be much later in the year. So, three options, I guess. I would need a motion for one of these.
Question, what is the cost for the state auditor?
That's a great question. I am not sure what they would charge us. Not sure. The only thing that he informed us is it is a law that they would have to come do it no matter what, but it would be much later in the year, is all he told me.
Ryan, can you please share with council how many companies you've reached out to?
30 plus companies. So there's a laundry list of these things, and 99% of them come back with the same thing. We just don't have the staff available to do your audit. So they're all running into the same problem. There's less people going into the accounting field, and it's harder for the public, for this sector, to maintain employees because they're all going to other places.
So the private sector is able to employ at a higher rate, the public governmental audits aren't as lucrative, so the number of firms even conducting the public audits is less, and so everybody's fighting from the same pool. Those particular firms are fighting for the same candidates. So we've heard the same message has been reiterated to the city over and over and over again. Our audit isn't exactly simple either. We have the HRA and water and light under our city umbrella. So even though we're, a smaller community, our audit is pretty extensive, which is why you're seeing that the one quote come in as high as it is. In addition, I can share that the cost of the audit is broken down per entity. So the HRA pays the HRA component, water and light pays their component, and then the city pays the city's component as well.
Right.
I don't see a problem going with Westburg. They threw a bid out.
Yes, they did.
They've been around for a long time. They do quite a few cities. Yes.
Do we have any other information on other cities that have used this?
Westburg?
Yeah,
I only found one
because
in my research.
I'm really concerned that the price isn't even in the same realm.
They could give us a list from themselves of all the cities they do. Usually in their paperwork, they have a list of all their accomplishments in the last year.
Sure.
Everyone they've audited. We are not under any pressure, although the longer we wait to do an audit, the more the more we're getting away from this last year, the more problems it could be to generate all that data.
Right, and I want to be clear, the Office of the State Auditors had said there's over 30-plus counties and cities looking for this same thing. So if we do pass, it's very likely that they'll take on someone else.
Some of our internal discussions have been, our previous contracts with our auditors have been multi-year. We've considered maybe engaging in a one-year contract, just to kind of get a feel for how it goes. You know, it's a two-way street as far as, you know, what the relationship looks like. So we've talked about engaging in a one-year contract as a trial. So then, you know, worst case scenario, we're coming back at it after a year and looking for another new auditor. Ryan has put a ton of time and energy and resources into this process. It's not been a fun one. We do have our annual inventory at the liquor store on January 1st. We'll be conducting that regardless, and then gathering that information to be able to share with whatever firm the city selects. And most likely, whatever firm we go with will have to do a spot audit, which, you know, an inventory audit, and they do price testing and things of that nature. So they'll be visiting the muni regardless, which is not an issue. But we'll make sure that our processes are what they've always been. Another thing about pushing this, you know, extending this out is, as of January, you know, we can start to engage in a portal where we're submitting just a ton of documentation and, you know, all of this financial information and requirements for the audit to kind of gear up towards that spring audit. So the longer we push out, the longer it is before that portal's established, and then we can start to work as an admin team to facilitate the audit on our end as well.
See, they have 10 certified public accounts, 21 non-certified accountants and support staff. That's in Wilmer, the Wilmer office.
Yep.
We currently provide audit, accounting, tax service for over 50 non-profit and governmental entities.
Their proposal was, I mean, there's a lot there. It encompassed a lot of information, was very thorough. I know RSM has experience with us in the past. They might be a little more realistic as far as the hours of service that our audit requires, but we did not receive a formal proposal like we did from Westburg as well.
How much was our last audit?
Right around 50,000.
So the second one's up close to 100,000.
And we were told by our previous firm that, you know, they were essentially going backwards facilitating our audit
Right.
because of the amount of hours and staff that it required with all of our different activities and everything that the city has under the umbrella. So I'm not surprised to see that both of these are above that.
I really don't like the idea of having to wait later in the year. Could be the end of this year, which means they're auditing almost 2 years back.
We would push it back a couple of months.
I just don't like the idea of doing that myself. It's up to the council, but I think it's, I would just rather have the audit done quicker so we know where we're at. We know if there's any problems, we know if there's red flags or whatever. Or problem areas or things that we need to correct. Not that there is any out there, but it's just good to know.
Ryan, is it possible that if RSM has overshot the number of hours, that the cost to facilitate the audit through RSM would be less?
That's correct.
Because this does say proposed costs on the
Right.
first one, and I'm like thinking, like, you know,
Right.
they're talking about travels included and stuff, they're coming from Wilmer. I mean,
I wonder too how much of that was just facilitating the first audit to kind of get us onboarded versus subsequent audits. what that cost looks like once we've established an account with them. Again, you know, a lot of times when we're working through these audit firm portals, we're able to access documents from previous years that then help us with current year submissions. So, you know, onboarding with a new audit firm is not going to be something that's extremely fun.
That could go either way. There's pros for each. It's really up to you guys.
Well, we've been talking about money all year long,
Yeah.
and now we're just like, let's just spend $50,000 more dollars because we used them 10 years ago. I guess I would err on the side of using somebody that's coming in at half a bit and then see, go with 1 year. Otherwise, check with the state and see what the state says that their price is, because they have to do it by law.
I think if we delay a month, did they say anything about their timelines?
No.
Okay.
I know, I mean, the state would be probably pushing it out a few months.
If we delay a month, we'll just go out probably a month to 2 more months, because they may take on more of the cities that are looking.
There are
There's a-
more and more
there's
places
a-
contacting them.
Right. They're gonna make a lot of cities will make a decision this month on the audit, the new auditor, because so many have dropped off, I don't know why. They've lost so many accountants.
So the audit firms are also able to be really selective about who they take on then. So, they can charge a premium and it's, you know, that, if you have you know, luckily we have an excellent track record. And so we're able to provide them with our previous audits, and then they review them, and that's how they come up with these figures, but also that's how they're willing to onboard us because of our track record. So there's some cities that aren't getting any responses at all. So we're in a good spot. It would just be nice to be able to move forward.
Yes,
So as finance director, you would be comfortable with Whisper?
I would.
yes, sir.
Can you just play, can you say if you wanted to, if you called the state tomorrow and you said you wanted them to do it next year, could you do that?
He just told me to email him, let him know. By statute, they have to come and audit us. But he said they're also short-staffed, and they're getting contacted by cities and counties. So it's gonna be, if you're worried about knowing where we stand, that would be the longest process of the three.
This is up to the council.
Going through anybody know?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to go with West Extension for this year for a 1 year contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further questions? Is this, by the way, 1 year?
I will tell them it's 1 year.
That was what the motion was.
Okay. Any other questions from the council, administrator? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's see, the next item is D, I believe, the City of Moose Lake certificate deposit rate discussion.
Yes, so this is for the CD rates that mature in January. We are currently at 5.25 for one and 3.10 for the other. So the first one is a 6-month CD. That's at 5.25. I've discussed with them. They are willing to keep it at that rate for another 6 months. Be my recommendation. The 1 year CD that was at 3.10, we can renew that for a year at 4.75.
It's not bad either.
The current balance of the 12-month is at 370, 578, 51, and the 6-month is at 390, 644, 20.
Council?
I'll make a motion to go with the recommendations of finance director.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 7, E, fraudulent check discussion.
Yeah, so this is just for your information, we had a fraudulent check go through, discovered this when doing the bank reconciliation for last month in November. The bank was contacted immediately, as well as local law enforcement. The check was supposed to go to Ryback Company for the amount of $2,272.70. At some point from the post office here to their post office, it was intercepted, and they printed out on their own check, so you can clearly see it's a different check, forged signatures, and the amount was increased by about $1,000. And they drove down here and cashed it at First National Bank, so, yeah, now it's in the hands of the fraud department at the bank and law enforcement, and just to let you know, we've taken some extra procedures and precautions for a while to make sure all the checks are going where they're supposed to go.
We don't need any action,
No,
correct?
just a
Information
More
only.
information, or if there's any questions about it,
Council, sounds like, thank you.
we're on top of it.
F, earn sick and safe time, E, SST discussion.
Yeah, so this is something the state has mandated for all employers. Earned sick and safe time is a paid leave employers must provide to employees in Minnesota. It can be used for certain reasons, such as an employee is sick, to care for a sick family member, or to seek assistance if an employee or their family member has experienced domestic abuse, sexual assault, or stalking. I guess this is just for your information too. This is something that we're gonna post everywhere where team members can see it. They will see a little bit of a different line item on their check stubs. It'll say earn sick and safe time. I'm recommending to the administrator that we do a blended thing, so we can choose to front load this thing, and we can choose to have it an accrual rate in our payroll system. So this is really for anyone that works here. So just for example, Rory, he would be qualified for this because he works over 80 hours in a year. Rather than having Rory turn in his hours all the time, I would recommend we just front load. We know he works more than 80 hours in a year. But for someone different, like a part-time DMV person, yes, we'll use the accrual in the system to keep track of that. Yes.
This isn't something, so if Rory, for example, left in the middle of the year, that he'd be able to be paid out on since it's front loaded.
So if it's front-loaded 80 hours, he could take the payout. If it's just the 48, that's not possible. There are certain rules for everything. I've been through demonstrations on this and what to do, and so.
So the approach is really key between the two, whether you're front loading or doing the accrual. And so, Ryan, who facilitates the payroll, will be analyzing every employee and then, selecting whether it's accrual and or front load based on their job duties, the number of hours they work, things of that nature. So we'll make sure that we meet the minimum requirements, but Ryan has asked for the discretion, so to speak, to determine whether or not it's best to front load and or use the accrual process and then facilitate.
Right. At one point, they were gonna have council also have to report your hours to us, but legislature just came through with a rule that says you guys are exempt from it, so.
So we don't get them.
Yeah, you don't get it, right? They just came out, so I would suspect there'll be more changes as this thing kicks off coming down the pipe.
Is this something the employees are putting into as well? Or is it something that it's just hours that are
Just
provided?
our responsibility.
That's not my understanding of how this first came out, so I guess I'm kind of a little confused on that, unless there's a secondary.
So if you already have a sick time schedule, then it's no difference to us because that supersedes it. So this is only for people like Rory, who, for example, who doesn't build up sick time. So these are the people that,
Okay,
Oh.
that wasn't clear.
Yeah,
sorry,
I thought
That's
it was
okay.
for everybody.
Okay,
So any of the part-time.
that's correct.
all right.
Oh, okay.
Counselor Jetman, you also might be thinking about another program that's being implemented in
2025.
2025 where there is contributions from
The state.
the state in addition.
That's a second
Correct.
part
Yep.
of this.
So are you looking for direction on front loading
I
or
don't know if I need,
or you and
motion
Lisa
for that or
are
not.
to?
I think just even consensus to give him the discretion to be able to establish the program as per our requirement, our state requirements, and use discretion to implement it per employee the way it needs to be to meet the requirements.
Greg? Consensus?
I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Good. Yes. You have consensus, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Good work on that, by the way. Moving on to G, SEH supplemental letter agreement, 73 Phase 2 trail project.
Yes, this is the process that occurs for every project that we formally undergo with our city engineers. So this is for the Trunk Highway 73 trail, the Phase 2. We're at the point now where we're gonna formally establish the project. That kind of takes care of the legal side of things and or the billing metrics. So now, once it's established as a project, we can then track it through our invoicing with them and or as a city for our capital projects for our audit as well. So this is the formal establishment of the Trunk Highway 73 Trail Phase 2 project.
And just for everyone's information, it is done by grants.
It is fully funded
Fully-
by grants.
Yeah. So, very fortunate again, thank you.
Do
Good
need a
job.
motion on this one, Ted?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, questions, comments, or motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve is to sign the supplemental letter agreement for the Phase 2 trail project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 7H 2023 LRIP grant submission.
Yes, this is just simply for your information. Again, this is one of the things that administration works on with the city engineers. So I just wanted to provide visibility to our entire application, just so that council could see how the project is proposed and the layout of the application. We also received 4 letters of support from the Moose Lake Community Schools, from the Moose Lake Chamber of Commerce, from Senator Jason Rarick's office, and from Davidson Insurance Agency. So it was excellent to have some community support as well, so we very much appreciate that. All of the materials in the packet are then submitted as part of the application, and that process has been completed, so now we just wait until spring to see whether or not we've been selected.
There's no, this is informational only, so
Correct.
no, unless anyone has any questions. Very good. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7I, ordinance number 172, and ordinance amending ordinance number 122, floodplain management.
So council, in your packet, you did receive a copy of the letter that the city received from FEMA. Essentially what's occurred is the city must adopt a conforming ordinance in order to continue to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. And so as part of that, changes to the model ordinance have occurred since the city previously adopted the ordinance. So what you saw in your packet is ordinance number 172. This is essentially amending the previous ordinance 122 for floodplain management. This is a requirement. What I'm doing on my end of things is making sure that this ordinance that we're reviewing and passing meets the DNR specifications, and then also with FEMA to make sure that we can continue to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. So this will be the first reading of this ordinance. You'll see some items that are blue and bold. I kept those in there initially for the first reading. We can dial in those metrics within the ordinance even deeper and essentially customize them and incorporate even higher standards than what's required. Through my dialogue with the DNR, their recommendation is this model ordinance. So I wanted to provide visibility of the different metrics we could essentially customize even more so. My recommendation would be to follow the model ordinance because it does qualify for the National Flood Insurance Program. So as we continue to have readings, if you have any questions, please let me know. In addition, you'll see those bold blue markings within the ordinance disappear for our second and third reading.
Now, we have to have this in order to submit to FEMA for reimbursement. If we don't have it, we won't get any reimbursement for any future flood activities that we do. So something we have to do.
It is lengthy, it's a lot there. If you have any questions, please let me know. I do have some resources I can tap into. Again, this is the first reading, so we'll see it a second time in January. Then we'll go through the publishing process, and then the third time in February. We must adopt it prior to March 13th in order to comply with the program requirements. So we're on track. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions? Moving on to 7J, International Institute Municipal Clerks, IIMC Regional 6 Mid-Year Meeting.
Yeah, so our region within the International Institute for Municipal Clerks is Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. There is a regional meeting coming up that city administration would like to attend. I think one of the goals for this year and moving forward is we have not engaged in any training opportunities over the course of the past couple of years. We've had new staff come online, and so we've just taken some time to get comfortable. We've had some transition and shuffle of duties and responsibilities. So everybody's kind of starting to settle in, and so this is a great opportunity for training for us. In addition, we'll be looking for other opportunities, being mindful, of course, of what's allotted for training within the budget, but just wanting to be able to expose all administrative staff to new opportunities, trainings, concepts within our particular field. In addition, there will be the Municipal Clerks Institute that you'll see come forward for approval in the next couple of months here to have staff attend the institute as well.
I would recommend that we approve this. In the past, I believe it was Fargo, that all the past administrators and clerks went to. So I'd recommend it. Right this time it happens to be in Iowa. But this is something that we've always approved, and I think it's a good idea that they go to it. So looking for a motion for authority for them to attend this regional meeting.
I'll make a motion that we send the administrative people to the mid-year meeting in Iowa.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under 7K, from Lois Lappin, notice of resignation.
Yep, this is just simply, council formally approves resignations. Lois has moved on to another job opportunity. It's possible, she has mentioned there could be interest in continuing to engage in some level of employment and/or at any point in time, she really enjoyed working for the city of Moose Lake. At this point in time, she has submitted a formal resignation, so by process, we will need to accept her resignation.
She was working at the
Recycling shed.
recycling shed. Does that have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And I don't know if Lois is listening, but thank you very much for your years of service.
Absolutely.
She's done a great job.
Is the city gonna send
Pardon?
is the city gonna send out a thank you, or like us to send out?
We do usually send out a card and thank you.
Thank you.
Under 7L, City of Moose Lake Police Department discussion, and do we have a guest here, Kelly?
So Kelly was not formally added on the agenda. And so if there's other discussions that are needed to be had, I know that Kelly's in attendance, just, you know, based on the nature of the discussion and everything that's currently transpiring, but was not asked to present.
If you don't mind, Claudia, could you come up, and if the council has any questions at this time, certainly this is an opportunity that they haven't had.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Shaw and councilors. As Administrator Owens alluded to, I was not asked to come and present anything, so I don't have anything formal to give you. But I was made aware that this was an agenda item on the meeting tonight, so I wanted to make sure that I was available, being that I was asked to present, or, you know, to provide some type of a proposal for what contracting services might look like. So in case there was any questions on that. Also, I have been hearing that there's some misinformation going around, and there's some residents that don't have maybe all the information on what services they could get and what that might look like. So I just didn't wanted to be able to provide an opportunity to, you know, answer any questions, but I just didn't want, you know, decisions to be made with misinformation or not all of the information out for residents, so that they could make an informed decision on, you know, what they're faced with right now. So.
Appreciate it. Council? Yes, sir.
From what I've been gathering from different people in town, a lot of them don't understand a lot what's going on in other, Moose Lake for the last, I guess, I left when I turned 18. I mean, when I was here as a kid, we had a constable. Okay, if he caught you out, he told you to go home. I mean, and if you didn't, well, you went home, okay. And the only thing you worried about is if you didn't and your parents found out, your parents took care of it. Today, that don't happen. So if the parents don't take care of their kids, maybe I shouldn't say that. People now, they like the idea that there's an officer around pretty much 24 hours a day. I think it's because of the way the world or the country has become. I went through different times and I went through different things that I understand that people don't necessarily feel safe. I don't have an answer for what we're trying to do. I don't know if the idea whether using the county or having our own, which way is that the best way to go. We have good officers and we have good people here. But the city of Moose Lake has a major problem in the financial end. And I think some of our problem is that we've had very poor communication between our officers, us, and the community. And we're gonna have more discussion on our own here, so I am happy that you're here, so if you have other questions, and right now I'm gonna shut up. Sorry, I've had my say.
I don't think there was a question in there for me.
I don't know, I don't think there was, I didn't want to read too much.
And without, I'm not gonna give your age away, However, I can tell you, I have been with the sheriff's office for over 33 years, and when I started, things in the world look vastly different. Our type of crimes that we respond to, the volume of crimes, the type of violent crimes, the drug issues, you know, those weren't there in the volumes and the type that we're seeing now. So yes, that definitely has changed in my time. But I do also, it was my understanding after the last council meeting, there was some discussion over and potentially a vote, I thought, or maybe I was misunderstood, but that there's gonna be a public hearing, which would give the residents an opportunity to come and hear information on what, you know, the city has for the police department, what that would look like, and then also what contracting for services with the county, with the sheriff's office would look like. So I think that would be a great opportunity to get that information out, because as I said, I am hearing that there are a lot of people that have misinformation or just don't have any information. And I don't think that's fair to them to be able to do that. I also agree that there are, you know, people want law enforcement, people want that sense of security, that public safety in their homes, in their residence, in their community. And, you know, ideally, 24/7, that would be ideal. But it's also my understanding that right now, the city is not in a financial place to be able to provide that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I guess my main concern about all this is the financing part of it. I believe that we need law enforcement of some form, but we have to have a law enforcement that's affordable to the taxpayers of Moose Lake. I think with these PTSD claims with the state, I mean, it's nobody's fault in Moose Lake or here that the state passed this law making us responsible for the health care of all our PTSD officers. Right now, we have so many claims of PTSD that we almost have a whole nother police department that's no longer works for us, that we pay the healthcare insurance on. And that has made it extremely difficult for us to find a budget. I understand that the state is going to possibly reimburse us for some of that, but that is only possibly for 1 year, possibly 2, that they would have money. We do not know what the future is going to be with the state. The reason why they're able to make these payments to us is because they ended up with a very large budget surplus. In the future, they may not have that budget surplus, and that makes it very difficult for a small town like Moose Lake. There are other towns in the state of Minnesota that have gone up against this issue, and they have chosen to shut down their police departments. Not that they wanted to, but financially, they could not find a way to afford that. And these towns actually have a larger tax base than we are. We're stuck at 29%, which makes it extremely difficult. We also have the problem of our infrastructure, which everybody here has heard me say, at the rate that we're going, fixing our infrastructure, it's going to take way over 200 years. Whether it's 200, 250, that is too long. We are pushing this burden down the road to our future generations, and they're going to reach a point where they are not going to be able to fix our infrastructure. Right now, we are lining our sewer lines, which I agree with, but those are temporary fixes. In 50 years, our future generations, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, are going to come across the issue that they're going to have to tear up all these lines that we are doing the lining on and fix them completely, whole new piping and everything, and that is going to be basically impossible for them to do. And part of this problem is, I mean, since I've been on here, I don't know how long it's been going on for, but for the 5 years that I've been here, our police department budget has been more than we take in total property taxes. And to me, that is just a huge red flag, that it's costing too much money. And I understand this is a difficult situation, but we need to find what's affordable for the taxpayer. I mean, everybody wants to have 24-hour coverage. Can we afford 24-hour coverage anymore? I don't believe so. And that's unfortunate. Not, if we're going to fix these problems with our infrastructure, we have to come up with a quicker solution to fix these problems, so we're not pushing this all down the road to, like I say, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. I mean, the taxpayers deserve an explanation on this. And it was my understanding too that we would have an open discussion with the public on this, and that we would send out cards in the mail for the people that don't want to attend the public meeting, so their opinion can be heard as well. And I think that's only fair to listen to the public. I'm also waiting for figures. The first thing that this council asked for when we had a meeting a month or so ago was how much it would cost for 3 officers from Carleton County. And we got a proposal for 4, and we've been still talking about what three officers from the county would look like, and we haven't got those figures yet. I understand that there's reasonings why that you would like to have 4, but for me, it's the cost. And if we're willing to go for 3 officers for the Moose Lake PD, I would like to be able to see, at least see what the figures would be and the possibilities for 3 officers from Carleton County. Now, just so we can see the whole picture. I don't like to make my decisions without having all the figures in front of me and to know all the options on this. But I just find the budget situation extremely concerning for the future of Moose Lake. And those are my concerns.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
So yes, I completely understand the budget woes because the county has been going through, I've seen that and I understand that. Although I'm not that intimately familiar with your city budget, I am enough to realize that you're facing a crisis right now with the police department budget. So the proposal that I gave was for 4 deputies and a .5 FTE clerical, which is 1 more officer than, is my understanding, than you have right now and are willing to maintain for a police department, if you were to maintain the Moose Lake Police Department. So my proposal was for 4, and it was for less money than for what you would have to maintain the 3. The reason that I did not provide 3 is I don't know that I am in a position to be able to do that, because I think that sets the county up and the rest of the taxpayers in the county with having to supplement the public safety budget for the city of Moose Lake. Meaning that because of the calls for service, the volume of calls, in addition to just, not just the residents, but also you have a state highway going through Moose Lake, you have a very much robust business corridor, more than if you're looking at Wright or Cromwell or Renshaw or Barnum or any of the other cities that the county does provide police services for, not dedicated, but they do provide that. So it's in looking at the numbers and the amount of, I think, manpower that it would take to adequately provide public safety for the city of Moose Lake, I believe that it is going to take 4 to be able to do that. And even having said that, and I did mention this, to Administrator Owens, with that 4, that still does not account, it's not 24/7 because people have time off. So there is gonna be still some time when there is gonna be some shifts that are not going to have a dedicated person there if you were contracting, if it was just the 4. Now, there's much more hours of coverage than just having 3, but you still would not attain that 24/7 coverage. As sheriff, obviously, my priority is public safety for all of the county. So, I would do whatever I can to, make sure that both the residents of Moose Lake and the rest of the county are, their public safety is my priority. But again, I also have to look at manpower and the volume of calls that we have, and where they are responding as well, and make sure that we can cover that whole thing. So, Counselor Lauer, that is why I have not provided the number for 3, is that I don't know that the county is willing to do that. I think if the police department, if the city wants to maintain a police department with 3, then, I think you might have to try and do that, because it would just put too much burden on the county with the number of hours and calls for service and everything else that I mentioned.
Thank you for that explanation. I find that interesting that you say about having the rest of Carleton County's taxpayers start paying for our coverage then.
And I may not be explaining that adequately for you, but just looking at, like I said, the calls for service, hearing the calls for service, and if I heard that correctly, 183 calls in 1 month.
In this last month, yeah.
So I'm gonna guess, I don't have the numbers in front of me because I didn't come prepared with that, but if you look at the city of Wright and the city of Cromwell, and probably Holyoke, and they probably don't have 183 calls in a year, let alone 1 month. So my point to that was, yes, the deputies are responding and they are handling calls for service in those areas, but given what the city of Moose Lake, with the infrastructure, the businesses, and the calls for service and the residents, they would be responding here exponentially more than the other unincorporated areas that don't have police departments that we cover. So is that making sense? I apologize if it is not.
And this is a low month.
So it's a lower month, I mean, the
Usually
calls are
around
usually in the
250,
200s.
they've been ranging that high.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is what would happen is the deputies would be in the city of Moose Lake so much that it would be pulling them away from other areas of the county because of the calls, the volume of calls.
Could there be anything to be said that in the areas that you would be responding to, there's a higher population rate, and that those higher population areas are paying more taxes to the county? Say like Moose Lake has higher population than say
Right.
like Cromwell area or
Yes,
something
and I'm
like that.
not an auditor, I don't do that, I don't do numbers, I can get some information, which is what I would love to be able to have an opportunity to, get all the information and be able to answer those questions, but, everybody in the county pays to all the residents, no matter if you live in the city of Moose Lake or Cloquet or Cromwell, pay taxes to the county. And it's my understanding it's based off of net tax capacity. So yeah, if there's more residents, they're gonna be paying more, but it's also based off of their property tax and what. Again, I need somebody who actually knows.
You're doing
knows
good.
way better than I do. And can explain that better. So there is, there are base services that everybody in the county is going to, you pay for, in Moose Lake, you pay for, money goes to the county to pay for our corrections, which is our probation and our Arrowhead Juvenile Center. So, those things. Our restorative justice program, that is spread out throughout the county as well. Our coroner service, our medical examiner service. Again, those things in the county budget are spread out between the whole county because the whole county utilizes all of that.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Chris.
I have a question. On the base salary or wages that he gave us, I don't have the number here right now. And then overtime, it was included, and have you resolved the union
Our contracts
negotiations?
are still open, but the overtime was not included in here. There was not overtime included in that proposal.
What?
In the second proposal, the overtime was removed because the council decided that there would not be dedicated coverage. So essentially, going away from the model that provided the 24/7 dedicated coverage and going to the 4-deputy model, then you're gonna have leave, you're gonna have those other types of metrics that then the overtime was removed from that proposal.
Okay. But, so then the base wages, and you haven't resolved the contract negotiation, you were just gonna absorb whatever the wages are increase?
So I talked with our HR and our auditor's office, and we're going off, based off of what we believe that the wages are going to be. So that is 24 wages that we think. Now, could that be different if the contracts aren't settled and it goes to arbitration ultimately? It could be different, and yes. But otherwise, that's how we did it. And that was a little bit difficult in giving this proposal, is that our contracts were open, and there's still, things up in the air as far as that, and there's, if there's, when we say 4 deputies, in this proposal, I put in here at the highest rate for family insurance. Now, if that's 4 deputies that have single coverage, insurance coverage, that will go down for the city. But I don't know. So we tried to get as realistic as we could to a reasonable number that, wouldn't have the county absorbing a lot of costs, but at the same time would also, be mindful of the citizens of Moose Lake as well.
Well, and now when you say the county absorbing the costs, that's where I go back to is, you're saying that we're not gonna have the other citizens of Carleton County paying for the Moose Lake Police Department. So if you're absorbing that, then really technically it's gonna be put on the other tax.
So given, like I said, the wages, we made an informed, educated guess on that. Again, it could change, but we believe that it will be very close to what it is going to be.
We've had a couple things that I've heard people come up and say, and other council members have brought up, and citizens. The fear that I've heard is when contracting, what would that look like? Because I've heard a lot of people say that the county would be leaving the area as soon as possible, and they would be patrolling here. I think the visualization is that it's a county squad. How would that look if it was 4 squad or 4 people?
So it would still be a county squad, but what we would do is we would, when we did it in Thompson Township, we contract 1 deputy in Thompson. But we put in there serving Thompson Township. We would put serving the city of Moose Lake. If the city pays for the dedicated officers or the dedicated deputies, then they would be dedicated to the city. Now, having said that, if they're similar to what we do now, we all have mutual aid agreements. If there is a bad call right outside in the, township, that deputy in the city, if they're not tied up on a call, would respond for mutual aid if needed. Now, if it's a call they don't need to go on, but if it's a, physical, domestic, somebody with a gun, and there's only 1 deputy that's headed that direction, again, they would say, hey, can somebody assist on that? We do that now, we always have, and I would not tell the Moose Lake deputy that they have to stay in the city if there is another deputy right outside that is responding to a call like that by themselves. So they would go. Now, if they're tied up on a call in the city, they're obviously gonna be tied up. And that would take priority as the city calls. So
And
they
that-
would stay, they would be dedicated to the city.
And that's how it works with the Moose Lake Police Department now? as well?
Basically, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I
Yes.
thought.
Every agency within, pretty much the Arrowhead region here in Minnesota, we all have, between the sheriff's offices and the police departments, we all have mutual aid agreements for things like that.
One more question. Some people bring up to me that we would lose control of our department, but we would still maintain control, some control through our agreement with the county.
That is correct. So, we don't know what the agreement would look like, so if you were to enter into that contract agreement, you can specify in there certain things. For example, I will say Thompson Township because I'm familiar with that one, but they have certain events throughout, their area in their township throughout the year that they want somebody there. They want to make sure law enforcement is at. That is included in the contract. There's an addendum to the contract. They want a high priority on the school, so that deputy there spends a lot of time interacting with the school system. Again, that varies depending on what it is the council, the mayor, and the city residents want. It's what can be done. Now, having said that, you do lose control of it to a degree because it is not your department anymore. So yes, you would lose control in that aspect over, the day-to-day management and, discipline and, things like that. You would lose control over that. Could you ask if there was, hey, we need this covered, or we need some extra patrol here, or we need that, certainly we would accommodate things like that. But as far as management and day-to-day operations, that is still vested with me as the sheriff.
You touch on what I was gonna ask you, because that's the main question that people have asked me about. Would they report to the city as being a controller entity versus you as a sheriff?
They as who? I'm sorry.
Community people have asked me that, or the officers, if we contract.
No, they would be under my direction and control. They would be deputies of the sheriff's office. Like I said, having said that, certainly, if there's things that you need taken care of or, whatever, we would be more than willing and happy to and hopeful that that's how that partnership and that agreement would work, is that we would be working, very closely with the city and the residents and building that. I know there's been some concern that, well, without our own police department, we don't have our own officers and we're not gonna know anybody. And you're just gonna cycle whoever through there whenever they, get a chance to get through there. If we were contracted with, for example, the 4 deputies, as in the proposal, those 4 deputies would be assigned, this would be their full-time station, would be in Moose Lake. So they would get to know the community members just like your current officers do.
I just wanted to reiterate, the reason some of these things are taking so much time is the council has been given basically one option that seems to be reoccurring with 3 officers. And we had made the request, I believe, December 8th, and then maybe in November as well, to see if we could get figures on 3 deputies so we could compare apples with apples. That's why we're asking for that, and we did, yes, it is correct, we did ask for a public hearing, and we did have consensus with the council to have a public hearing in January, and we did give the city administrator the opportunity to reach out to you on the 3 deputies as well, and we did talk about the survey options as well. So I just wanted to get that out there. That's what we've been trying to say, what does it look like if all things are equal? And I understand that that isn't an option available right now.
The other thing, if I can just mention, they wouldn't be equal either, because within that proposal, there are some things that the city will be getting without it coming up as a cost to the city. Things that the sheriff's office is able to provide. So not only do you get the 4 deputies, you would get the full complement of the sheriff's office. So we have investigators, we have 2, well, right now we have 2, but we'll be putting on a 3rd investigator in January. for general investigations, and general crimes. We have one investigator that is dedicated to just drug enforcement, and so, you know, in addition to, plus the supervision piece of it was taken out of here. So you also have that supervision piece that we are going to take care of with our existing staff. We have sergeants that are on each shift, in addition to a patrol and investigations lieutenant that oversees those deputies, in addition to my chief deputy and myself. So you have those things that are not accounted for, you know, in our proposal, but you will be getting all of that as well. In addition to, I know it's very important to you as counselors and the mayor to have a liaison with you to provide that information, to provide whether it's the monthly reports or, you know, weekly information, or however we decide that works for you. That's important to me as sheriff as well. And likely, at least if in the beginning, it would be me that would be, you know, that direct liaison for that type of thing. So also, and one thing that hasn't been touched on is the field training that we would be putting into the 4 deputies. So it may be, it will be first offered to our existing deputies if they want to work, you know, if they wanted to work down here in the city of Moose Lake, they would be given that opportunity. If we need to hire more, there's gonna be a training component, a field training component for that. We can't just throw them out and go, here's the keys, good luck, find your way around. So that is not included in this proposal, but that is something you would get, is the 4 trained deputies that have been through our field training program. Also, your evidence room transition. There's an existing evidence room at the police department now, and there's gonna have to be some, probably a bit of work to transition that, because some of it has to be retained, some of it does not. But until that is figured out, you know, that is something that, you know, we're willing to look at, to take on. It would be a project we would have to take on, you know, in conjunction with the police chief right now to try and figure that out. But that wasn't in there, and that's gonna probably take a good 40 hours just to try and figure out what's in there and where it goes, and if it has to be disposed of, destroyed, whatever. I mentioned the investigations. The liability then transfers to the county, so the city doesn't have that. Either future PTSD liabilities or just general liability, because operating a law enforcement agency, you know, there's risks assumed in that. And then also insurance, for right now the county is covered by the Minnesota County's Insurance Trust. And we would be covered under that, and that would not be borne by the city at that point either. So there are some things in that proposal. So that's why in looking at the 3, it is not apples to apples completely, because there are a lot of things that the county would be providing as a package for that.
Really quick, and I know you said you didn't have anything ready to go, so I apologize for this question. But your law enforcement agency, like everyone on earth right now, is getting the slim pickings of who's graduating and who's. How long do you think this? So say they accept and they go with the county. How long do you think it would be before you could get 4 down here? Because I know you're as short as everybody else is. And
so yeah, we've been our applicant pool has shrunk. We've been very fortunate, however. In fact, our last 2 hires were lateral transfers from other agencies, so we were able to actually draw in some officers that already had experience from other agencies. But as far, it depends, and I can't answer that because I don't know for sure. If it's, you know, if it's somebody that has experience, their field training, we just had somebody finish field training, just came off of field training, and I think it was less than 2 months that he was on full training on his own. I don't think it was a month and a half maybe. So he had experience and went through our training program in that amount of time. Now, if we have somebody brand new out of school, it could take, 3 to 4 months potentially to fully train someone. So, yeah,
And I didn't want to just put her on the spot with that. The reason I'm asking is, say you guys do decide to go with the county, well, we're probably gonna start looking other places. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, most of us already have, just to have a safety net. And I don't wanna see there be months of nothing down here before, the county can take over. That's my biggest worry, is I don't wanna see the city, and it won't be nothing, because obviously,
we
you'll
would
still be patrolling.
responding.
Right,
We would
right.
still be patrolling. It
But-
just wouldn't be in a dedicated
Right.
fashion unless,
yeah.
of course, the city wants to
Didn't mean to say
pay for
nothing.
dedicated hours.
Yes.
You could do that, but
I did have a follow-up question with that because it was staffing. The current staffing that we have here, if the city does decide to go with the county, is there going to be any type of opportunity for them to apply, and what opportunity is there?
yes, absolutely. So I have, in speaking with Administrator Owens, have already, I cannot guarantee a position because they have not gone through my hiring process. But I can guarantee an interview for them and encourage them to apply.
And have in the past, let's say 10 years, does everyone get an interview?
No,
That applies?
no,
But you guarantee?
I will guarantee an interview.
Yes. please.
Today I had a conversation with chief of police from a smaller community that they had their police department, then they had contracted for like 21 years with their county, and then 2 years ago they went back to their own police department. I know you're getting to the end of your career, and what would you see as if your position turned over to somebody else, or the commissioners turned over? Do you see that a contract would change significantly?
I do not see where that would at this point. And again, I guess it depends what the expectations are, what the request is. I can't speak to that, but that's another reason I fully intend on being here another at least 3 years. I mean, that's this term. Do I know what's gonna happen beyond that? No, I don't. Am I getting up there in age where I probably should, hang this up pretty soon, or maybe? I don't know.
Well, my dad was like in his 70s, so.
Okay, I will not be here as long as Disney, I'm just gonna say that. But, yeah, so that's one reason why there's a contract. Now, we haven't talked about how long the contract would be necessarily, or we just focused on like 1 year, what did the, proposal look like? But certainly, I plan on being here for at least another 3 years. And so, if that is the direction the council went, and there's an opportunity to do another contract beyond that, certainly I would still be here, but I can't see that changing vastly different. I mean, the county is not, I'm not looking to make money on this, the commissioners are not looking to make money on this. We want to make sure that we're again, not having the rest of the taxpayers supplement all, Moose Lake. But we just want to provide good public safety in a way that we can. Would I prefer, because I know the city's not in a position right now financially, or at least today, that they have their own fully staffed police department, that I don't have to even do this? Absolutely, because I think that, that would be great. We wouldn't have to be here if money was not in the discussion. But being that it is, as sheriff, I do feel that our proposal of 4 is it would provide better services, it would provide better coverage for the city residents. Just based off of the 3 now. I mean, that's kind of simple math, I guess. You get more hours covered, but.
So the commissioners that are currently there are all in sports? I heard one really was.
So their first, I've talked to all of them, their first thing was, well, you better make sure that, the county isn't having to pay for any of this. But after I explained to them, you know, how this works and that reminded them that, you know, the county does already pay for, you know, services outside in areas that don't have a police department. And then they thought about it for a second and went, oh, okay. So once, you know, I explained it to them, they understood it a lot more. So as far as have I asked them, are they in favor of one or the other, I have not asked that question.
For the council's sake, we're getting close to the public hearing that we have to hold tonight. I don't want to cut you short, Kelly, or the council, but I think we should take a recess. And I know that there's going to be more discussion during the budget proposal, that all of us will have a chance to speak about all items in there, including the police department. So for now, I would like to end this discussion here, but we will have more during the budget and after when we have to do the motions. So there'll be more discussion on that. Whether you stay or not, it's up to you, Kelly. I don't know, the union public hearing, it may go an hour, it may go maybe less, depends on how many people will show up at 6. And we will stay into it a while to make sure people have time to come and speak before we close it, and then go in and make the motions that we have to make. So, anyone have any other questions?
I would just like to make sure that that we'd extend the offer to the sheriff to be there during the public hearing as well, if people have questions of the sheriff.
Whatever, it's up to Kelly, it's your night, it's your life.
So I just have a quick clarification on that. Are you talking about the public hearing in January?
No, now tonight.
I was talking about in January.
Oh,
We have a public
okay,
hearing
I
scheduled.
understand.
So I guess that's, then I guess I would need to seek some clarification. Absolutely, I would hope that I could be invited to the public hearing to be able to provide that information. But just a point of clarification, if that public hearing is still happening or if there's gonna be motions made tonight, either way, or if there's a final decision, I don't know if there, is that on the table tonight? Is there
There could
a
be
final
any,
decision?
after the public hearing, the council will come back into the normal session that we're in now. We'll be doing a recess. And then motions can happen, in fact, they will have to happen on all the budget items that are within in our budget coming up. And it's up to the council on the police department. Each person can speak, give their opinion, whichever. So, yeah, that could happen.
I'm a little confused because we agreed 10 to 12 days ago that we were going to have a public hearing about the police department in January. We agreed that we were going to send out surveys with the water and light, so I was not under the impression that that could happen since we did not agree upon that. Council.
Well, anyone can make a motion.
They can make a motion,
anytime.
but we did have an agreement with
Correct.
the city council as a whole, that we were going to have a public hearing in January. That's all I'm
Understand.
saying.
But it doesn't preclude that someone can't do a motion.
Very true.
So, just so everyone understands that and knows it. If there are any questions on that?
So, I got a question here. So you guys could make a motion tonight, right?
Yes, they could.
Okay. I just want to clarify that, because it was confusing, just like
Right,
Councilor Johnny was saying, it is what it was.
right. Any counselor has that right at any time to do that.
Thank you all for
No.
the opportunity to answer some questions and be here when I wasn't actually on the agenda, so I do
I
appreciate
appreciate it
that.
very much.
And I would hope again, moving forward, that public hearing does go forward, but in the meantime, if there are any other questions where I can actually then maybe provide more of a comprehensive presentation, I would certainly welcome the opportunity to do that, to make sure everybody's questions are answered.
Appreciate that very
Thank you.
much, thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
So we got about 10 minutes before we have to open up at 6:01 in the public hearing. So I'd like to ask for a recess.
So
And we will, when we come back at a little before 6 here, I'll give everybody a chance to stretch and get a drink, whatever. We'll go into the public hearing, and after that, we'll go the budget presentation, and the public who are at the public hearing will have a chance to speak, ask questions, and then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll be back into the normal session, and do the motions that we have to do on we have to do the full budget vote tonight. That has to happen tonight. And there's different elements within it that motions have to be made on. So, do I have a motion to go into recess?
You did.
And he seconded
I
it.
seconded.
You seconded it?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, we're in recess. I think we have to have a motion to come back, and then we'll go into the public hearing. So, do you have a motion to go back into our normal session?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next motion would be to go into the truth and taxation public hearing, and I think we usually do the budget presentation explanation first. And then into the open hearing part of it. So let's do the budget presentation. Then we will open into the public hearing, take public comment, then close the meeting again and do the motion. So if you will please proceed, appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I will present the 2024 final budget for the city of Moose Lake. A few notable items in the expenditures is an election budget has been added into 2024. That comes and goes depending upon whether or not it's election year. That has been included as an expenditure. The operating transfer to the motor vehicle department has been increased to $50,000. There is a 3% wage increase included in the budget for all city employees that are non-contract. The health insurance budget increased 9% this year. And there's electric utility rate savings as per our 2-year agreement with the Water and Light Commission. And so that $180,000 has been sidelined and marked for contributions to a potential development. So that is included in the expenditures within the 2024 budget.
This is the last year, correct?
This is the last year, and we will be looking to renew that with the commission. As far as revenues are concerned, the sales tax revenues budgeted for 2024 is at $225,000. Local government aid from the state of Minnesota has increased to $1,120,380 in 2024. There is the water and light transfer budgeted at $250,000. Now that is just a line item as per each individual bill that comes back in and helps fund the city of Moose Lake. So that is at $250,000 again this year. It's been at that total for a couple of years now. The campground revenue budget has been increased by $30,000 to $180,000 in 2024. And the liquor store revenue budget, based on our current operations and the modifications and changes that have occurred, has been increased 4%. So looking in at a department overview, this is for the general fund. These figures per department do not include the capital projects. Those will be highlighted later on within the presentation. So for 2024, we're looking at a general government budget of $574,750. The general fund city council budget is $43,375. The city administration budget is $349,800. The elections budget, as previously mentioned, is $2,500. The community center budget is $42,465. The police department budget is currently at $687,850. The building inspector budget is $26,500. The public works budget is $309,050. The recycling center is budgeted for $17,000 for 2024. The depot budget is $10,000 for 2024. The Parks and Recreation Department within the general fund is budgeted at $92,600. The gardens budget is at $23,300. The public library budget for the city of Moose Lake is $87,050 for 2024. The cemetery budget is $14,350. Cable TV is at $42,150. And the Riverside Arena is at $92,450. Those are all operational expense, again, without capital projects included.
And the library budget, that's at the amount that we need to be at to satisfy.
Yes, thank you for asking, Councilor Lauer. That does meet the statutory obligation for funding. In addition, the police department budget that's been included is for the city's department with 3 officers. The next page, you'll see an overview of capital projects within the general fund only. Within the Parks and Rec department, there's $8,000 budgeted for an arena bleacher heater. The electric utility savings, as previously mentioned, has been earmarked for development at $180,000. For the Public Works Department, there is a gravel pit savings account for $50,000, a pickup truck trade for $20,000, and a used dump truck line item for $60,000. Within the community center, there's a rooftop unit install for $30,000, a copier for $8,000, and then workstation replacements, 1 for administration, 2 for the police department, and 1 for public works. The 2024 general fund capital project total is $368,000.
The rooftop unit install, is that for 1 unit or is that for 2?
Thank you for asking. That is for the actual rooftop unit and installation, and that is for 1 unit.
Okay.
Just looking at a general fund budget summary, so this is incorporating all the metrics that we've just highlighted. The 2024 revenue budget for the city of Moose Lake is $2,862,557. Operating expenses is $2,408,250. The capital project expenditures are $368,000. Total expenditures, $2,776,250 for a net income of $86,307. Just a couple of notables. Within the revenues, there's the sales tax for $225,000, the franchise fee for $35,000, gambling contributions of $1,000, the LGA, so local government aid, campground revenues, water and light transfer, etc. Those are all included within revenues. If anybody ever had any questions about our actual revenue breakdown, I can most certainly provide that within the budget. In addition, these revenues and expenditures were calculated using the 3% initial levy that was passed. Moving on to debt service. As you'll remember, over the past couple of years, the city was dinged for not levying enough as far as our bond obligations are concerned. And so these snapshots of each of our debt service obligations within the general fund used to be more exciting. They're now pretty simple. As far as the 2011A bond, $72,760 of general property tax monies will be obligated to the 2011A bond. You can see the breakdown in expenditures. That's a $60,000 principal payment, $12,210 of bond interest, and then a $550 fiscal agent fee. Our levy now covers our entire 2011 A bond payment. Moving on to the 2014 A bond, this one looks a little different. We utilize $105,298 of general property taxes. In addition, there are special assessments from Park Place that bring in $31,355.97 for a total revenue of $136,653.97 for an obligation. And then you'll see the expenditure breakdown. You'll see the debt service principal payment is $130,000 in 2024. The bond interest is $5,850, and then the fiscal agent fee for this particular debt service is $475.
Quick question on that.
Yes.
On special assessments, do those fall off at any time, or are those set?
Those do fall off.
Do we know when the sunset clause is on that?
I absolutely have a very expansive Excel workbook that takes each individual parcel, their contributions over the course of so many years. I am not certain, Councilor Jutman, when the 2014 A bond is paid in full, but I can most certainly get you that information.
I'm just wondering if they were set as all.
Yeah, so what we have is essentially, again, with our statutory obligation for 105%, that's where the $105,000 of general property tax, that's our obligation to levy for that particular bond. The special assessments are recorded, so essentially we don't have to levy for the whole 136,000, we get to levy for less based on those assessments. So then as time goes on, our principal payment, our interest decreases, our principal goes up, but the special assessments stay in there for the duration of the bond payment. So.
Thank you.
Moving on to the 2017 A bond, $58,675 of general property taxes will be obligated to the 2017 A bond in 2024. In addition, you can see the expenditures. It's a $54,000 debt service principal payment, $4,200 worth of bond interest, and $475 for fiscal agent fees. So you can see we're levying for just the cost of facilitating the 2017 A bond. And last but not least, the 2020 A bond. Again, this is $17,300 of general property tax monies that are obligated for the 2020 A bond. The breakdown is in expenditures is a principal payment of $16,000, bond interest of $825 in 2024, and then a fiscal agent fee of $475. Once again, we are bonding for just the amount to cover our total expenditures for the 2020 A bond. Now we're moving away from the general fund and moving into our enterprise fund. So looking first at the water fund. Just as a notation, in 5 years, the debt service obligation for the water fund will be over $241,000 per year. Simple math breakdown as far as what the increase needs to be over the next 5 years to be able to support that payment would be $48,200 per year. The work that's been accomplished with the city council thus far has established a 4% water rate increase. This brings in an increase of revenue of $51,198, which covers the $48,200 obligation. The household impacts, you're looking at for the minimum user, $3.59 per month. $6.01 for a 4,000 gallon user per month. A 6,000 gallon user is looking at $8.67 per month, and 8,000 plus is looking at about $11.62 of an increase. Water revenues for 2024 are budgeted at $423,398. Water expenditures are budgeted at $313,507. There are no capital projects recommended for the water fund based on needing to build the fund balance in order to be able to facilitate the debt service obligations in the next 5 years. The net income at a 14% water rate increase is budgeted at $109,891. Again, building to be able to afford the $241,000 bond obligation payment in 5 years. Moving on to the sewer fund. The sewer fund debt service obligation in 2024 is $383,000. That's a $43,000 increase over the previous year. That is just the nature of how the debt service payment schedule is established. So looking at 11% rate increase based on the work that's been done with council thus far, household impacts for 11% rate increase at minimum users looking at $2.77 per month. 4,000 gallon users looking at $4.08 per month. 6,000 gallon users looking at $5.35 per month. And 8,000 gallon users looking at $6.57 per month. And a 9,000 plus gallon users looking at about $7.22, give or take, an increase per month. Sewer revenues at 11% rate increase are budgeted at $609,686. The sewer operating expenditures are budgeted at $776,248,000. In addition, we're looking at the annual lining project of $100,000 for capital. The VFD at the main lift station needs repair for $15,000, and we need to make sure that we're maintaining our bug program at the ponds for wellness, so $20,000 for that. The sewer 2024 sewer capital total is $135,000, and the net income is budgeted in 2024 for a loss of $166,562 within the sewer fund. Keep in mind, I know we're working on the service charge as we move forward here, which is why we're looking at the amendment, looking at the sewer fund rate study and things of that nature. So all of that will be building in the background. This is the budget we'll pass tonight for 2024. And again, we're looking at a deficit of $166,562. The liquor fund summary. So a notable, based on trends and the work that's been done, we're looking at a 4% revenue increase for the liquor fund. Liquor revenues for 2024 are budgeted at $1,898,880. Liquor expenditures for 2024 are budgeted at $1,754,687. We're looking at a $20,000 HVAC capital project within the liquor fund. So looking at a total net income for 2024 at $144,193 for the liquor fund. So
The CIP expenditure of $20,000, what's that for?
if you look to the right, there's a little table here. We're looking at an HVAC control panel. Again, that's budgeted at $20,000. That's based on us needing to repair our heating and cooling system. Lastly, the motor vehicle fund summary. The 2024 budget incorporates a $50,000 operating transfer from the general fund. In years past, we've done $20,000, but we've operated the motor vehicle department at a deficit for a number of years now. Current work that's occurred in the DMV to start offering different services and have different things available for sale have netted about $20,000 of increased revenue. So the operating transfer of $50,000 was established and increased based on leaving a deficit of $22,745, and the goal will be to make up that difference. And what can we do to continue to build revenue to break even? The $20,000 operating transfer was no longer sufficient. Motor vehicle revenues for 2024 are budgeted at $2,564,900. Motor vehicle expenditures for 2024 are budgeted at $2,587,645. Again, for a net income loss of $22,745.
Do you remember what the net income was, the loss from last year? Was it 72?
Looks like, isn't it 50?
I believe it was in the 50s. But there was a $20,000 operating transfer in there, so the total loss was right around 70. So again, we're looking at that same scenario. Inflation, state fees have risen, costs have risen, and so we've made up $20,000, and in that span of time, it's kind of absorbed. So the goal is to make up another $22,000.
This has been talked about to our local senator and House representatives to see if they can do something about this, because the state is taking all the funds. And they're not reimbursing us to run the motor vehicle.
And that's
So
following.
if they can do anything with legislation, hopefully it'll help. But right now, almost all the DMVs are running at a loss, so the state's taking all the funding.
This has been a trend
It's
since
a-
I've been on the
For
council.
19 years, it's been that way, which isn't, yeah, it doesn't seem right, because we're doing that for the state.
There's been a lot of creative implementations of things over the past year that, you know, we generated about $20,000 of additional revenue, so we're gonna keep at it. And that'll be the goal for, to essentially make up for the $22,000 budgeted loss again for 2024. So lastly, there's some levy figures that have been presented. Wanted to give a snapshot. The $1,030,000, the $1,030,069 figure at 3% is the initial levy that was passed. I've also provided metrics at 0% levy increase, a 1% and a 2% just for visibility. Again, the revenues and expenditures that have been budgeted for within this presentation are at the 3%. What I wanted everybody to see is on the following page, and that's where you're gonna get a breakdown of what are the city's net income in the general fund will be at those different percentage values. So at a 0% levy increase, the net income would be $43,544. At a 1%, you'd be at $57,798. A 2%, $72,052. And then that 3%, what's been provided in the budget summary was the net income of $86,307 at the 3% initial levy. Keep in mind, when we do our motions, we are going to pass the actual dollar value and the revenues and expenditures relevant to that particular dollar value. But the percentages are for visibility. In addition, I wanted you to be able to see the net income based on the percentage levels.
We went to the next page.
Back to the levy figure page, on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the past 5 years, the city's maintained the same tax rate for the citizens. And so I just wanted to provide a little visibility to that, and then the tables just essentially display the same information at the 0, 1, 2, and 3% increase percentages, just laid out in different formats. That concludes the 2024 budget presentation. Where we're at now is we can obviously open up the public hearing, Mayor Shaw, and then the rest of the pages within the presentation are relevant to the motions that are required.
Before we do, any questions by the council?
Pretty hard work on this, I know it was a big struggle this year.
Thank you so much.
You guys also, aren't you?
Who did a motion?
I didn't do a motion,
Oh.
I think, I was doing a thank you.
Oh, very good. All right. Are there any questions before we change this, or any statements any council wants to make? Hearing none, I myself do want to make a comment on the police department and the budget. And this has nothing to do personal to any counselor or to the sheriff that was here, or the police department officers, or the administration. This is just my own decision on the police department. Before we do pass this budget, after 4 months of looking at this stuff and hearing about it and talking to community members and officers that have retired from here and officers at other departments, I came to the conclusion that I would like to go with our own department with 3 officers. I just think all of you need to know that from me. It's my own personal decision, and also to the community. That's just the way that I feel, the decision I made. It wasn't easy. It took 4 months to come to here, and I just think you all should know that that's where I stand on it. With that, do we have a motion to go into the public hearing? Open the public hearing, excuse me.
Make that motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The motion carried. We are now in public hearing. Do we have anyone present that would like to speak? Yes, sir. Could you come up to the podium and state your name?
Cody Gilbert. I guess I realize that all the budget, financial decisions are very complicated and whatnot, but I guess in the last 2 years, and I'm fortunate, I mean, my house is not real expensive or anything, but I've seen on a municipality level, I've had a 30% increase on taxes in 2 years. And I don't get to go to my employer and demand a raise to compensate for this. You know, gas is costing more, utilities, you know, food, everything is up. And I just don't, I would like to see some action on a municipal level of solving these problems without going to the bottomless pocketbook of taxes all the time. And here again, I realize that these are very complicated, complex issues, and it's not just, you know, it's not as easy as just saying that, but, I mean, when is it gonna end, you know? What's the end game? I watch my grandparents, you know, in their later years, you know, do things like pick pine cones and cut pine boughs to pay their property taxes each year. And here again, I mean, I'm not looking at losing my house or anything like that, but where is the balance, I guess? It just seems like it's just, you need more money, you go to the old tax department. I guess that's just what I wanted to say to you guys.
Maybe you could respond to like what we have done in the past, is it 5 years? 4 years, what our tax increase has been?
So the city's been able to maintain the same rate at which they're taxing the residents. The problem, or not necessarily the problem, but a contributing factor has been just the increase in property values. So the valuations of everybody's properties are just going through the roof. Now, you know, everybody has different thoughts on those valuations, but those valuations have led to a significant increase, and it's not the rate that at a municipal level that's changed in the past 5 years, it's the valuation of the property. that is done at a county level, and so the city's kind of handicapped by that. There is a strong recognition by council, that only 30% of the land in the city of Moose Lake is taxable. So the levy actually isn't the best course of action to generate revenue, which is why there's some other things in place, like the municipal liquor store. This last year, the city actually paid off the debt for that store, the municipal liquor store. So now those monies can be utilized, and actually the monies that the municipal liquor store can contribute back to the city far exceed what an increase in the levy would garnish. So those types of metrics are in place for the city now that we can actually start utilizing to be able to reduce the need for additional tax increases. The campground is another one. The campground generates revenue that the city directly goes right into the general fund, so it's supporting everything else that contributes, just like property tax does, to the general fund. So there are a couple of measures in place. The tough part of what everybody's experienced over the past couple of years has been the increase in valuation of all the homes and the properties, and that's been really difficult.
Why is it only on, I guess on the statement, it's only for the city of Moose Lake that it's shown?
When the county evaluates the home, you're reevaluating within the city limits. So it doesn't say county on it, but the county is the one doing the valuation. So then it shows up on this, looks like on the city itself. But I think we have passed a zero tax increase itself, zero, 5 years in a row.
So
Where the county they have increased the tax and the valuation, which really hurts every small community in the county. But they're building, their transportation building, what was the first one? Their big human services building, and now the jail. So those funds have gone to big projects within the county. I guess that you could say that they service the whole county, but it hurts smaller communities when it comes to taxation. We've been sticking to zero, and that hurts our budget. So we can do it. It gets harder and harder to run the departments, and the police department, you heard the discussion, that's one of them, makes it very hard for a small city. But we're very, very well aware of it, because we know that the population within the city, the age group, is probably 50% or greater are senior citizens on a fixed income. We don't want to hurt them. And some of us are actually at that age. So we know what it is.
Sure.
Mayor Shaw, if I may.
Yes, please.
Some of the documentation that the council is looking at tonight, a 1% increase in the tax rate only garnishes the city about $15,000. So the levy is, because of the disproportionate breakdown in what land is taxable and not taxable within the city limits, the levy isn't a huge generator of revenue for the city. It's just not. I mean, it's the exact opposite equation that you see in other cities where there's 70% of the land is taxable and 30 isn't. So that's why other measures are in place, the campground, the liquor store, I mean, all those help. For 5 years, the city maintained a 0% rate increase, but your property taxes increased because the valuation increased. So, I mean, I absolutely understand too, with the cost of everything is increasing. And so the city will continue to be as creative as we possibly can of other ways to generate revenues and partnerships You know, we created a partnership with Water and Light to try and mitigate $180,000 worth of expenditures for the city. So if you look at $180,000 and you know that 1% only garnishes $15,000, I mean, that's a huge rate savings, essentially, or the negation of a rate increase to generate $180,000. So there are efforts there, but it's not an easy task as well.
There is, you know, for your evaluation, if you do believe that the county has evaluated your house too high, there is a meeting once a year that they have where you can talk to the county assessors and ask them to come out and take another look at your house and see if they're evaluating it right. And from my experience of watching it, a lot of the people that have asked the county assessors to come out to their property, they have given them a lesser rate after they have gone out and spoken and seen their property. You know, so that is always an option for you. And, you know,
Is it still BAFSA?
we've had that meeting already, but there will be another one
It'll
in,
be in the spring.
Spring.
yeah,
Yeah.
in 2024, there will be another one.
Okay.
And we always list that, you know, and try to get the information out to the public. But like I said, I have seen a lot of people have theirs dropped after that. I mean, it's not guaranteed that they're gonna do that, you know.
Yes, please.
Should I just piggyback off what he's saying is, because they went around this summer, and if you're not home, they just walk around your house and look at it and write down a number. If you come to the meeting, they'll actually go out there with you, and you can point these things out, and they might have things on there that they just, you know, estimating or guesstimating, but they actually, you can stand there with them and show them. Again, we've seen a lot be decreased. We can't guarantee it because that's on the county's
Right.
decision, but
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You can actually call the county assessor and ask him, would you please reevaluate it now? I'm not positive they will or they won't, but there's no harm in trying.
Okay. All right.
I just have one thing to say. You mentioned about, you know, city or taxing agencies going straight to taxing. And that was a good visual for a lot of people. And the city administrator brought up that we have 30% of the property owners actually paying 100% of the taxes. About 5 years ago, the mayor and our city administrator and legislatures went to bat for the city of Moose Lake, and we obtained our own economic development authority, because we understand that we do not have land. So when the city administrator now is talking about that $180,000, we've used that money, earmarked that money for infrastructure for new housing development up by Quick Trip. So we're changing by having our own economic development authority and working, acquiring land, we're changing that 30% dynamic. So it eases the burden on the people that are paying 100% of the property taxes. So it's very real possibility for us to have 20, 30, 40, 50, or 60 new homes up there. If we hit that 60 mark, we're going to change the 30% of the population paying 100% of the property taxes to 40%. So it will be a lot less of a burden on the taxpayers in Moose Lake. So our goal, we do have an end game, and that is getting more people in the city of Moose Lake. And so thank you for bringing that up.
And thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming. Yes, sir.
Leroy McEwen, and I've been in town about 7 years now. I have a home up on Grove Avenue. I've lived in small towns most of my life, and I've heard the same thing in every small town. And it's my belief that it's old people like myself that fought the tax thing so many years, and 90% of the people fighting it don't really give a shit. They just don't want to pay more taxes. They don't care what you spend it on. They don't care. They just assume that you're getting more money, you should be able to do more things. And I've yet to get it across to some of these communities that you have to start now. You've let it go on too long without increasing taxes for 5 years. It sounds good, but it isn't helping anything. We have to make sure that we cover the expenditures of this town with the tax base that we got. It's all great stuff that you just talked about. It's new. Maybe we need to communicate better with the public on some of these things and let them know what's going on, you know, like the police department and this stuff. So I have my opinion on that, but I'll hold back on that now. So I think we need to take a good look at, you know, who are we hurting by not keeping up with the taxes to our needs? So just been on councils before, majority of the people are my age, and they just, I don't know, the word tax just scares them. It doesn't bother them that McDonald's charges twice as much for a meal now as it did before. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me at all, so. Just passing that on, and look at it from another angle, you know, and it's not your people's fault at all. It's the generation that I'm from that started it, and that's the way it's maintained, so. Okay, that's all I
I
got.
appreciate you coming. Thank you. We have no one else here at present. We normally like to wait a few more minutes before we close, so we'll wait. We'll go like 5 more minutes, see if anyone shows up. It is being broadcast, so if anybody in the community wants to come down and speak, please come. Phil, are you next?
No,
Oh,
but I'd like to find this alarm that's going off back here.
there is an alarm going on?
Yes,
So I can't hear it,
I
but
can-
they're all telling me they can hear it.
I
And
can't hear
heard
it anymore.
I
once.
can't hear it anymore, and it was going off for a while.
Yeah.
Chad went and checked on it, it wasn't anything he could find, I haven't gotten any calls, so.
I turn it off every time you go back to it.
See, I was gonna say, I bet it's an app on your phone, and that's smarter than me, and you're gonna play this all night. That's what I was
I
thinking.
have heard it.
I didn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
Warmer.
Everyone
See
over
where he goes
70,
this
you
time.
never heard anything either.
If he starts to get dizzy, please speak up.
It's on his phone, but we didn't tell him.
What's that?
I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We now close the public hearing. We now are in our regular session. So the first motion that we need to make is a motion for annual levy dollar amount. And that dollar amount, I believe, is this 2,008,000.
Nope, so first we're working with the levy, so on the first motions page, we're on the far left-hand column where it says tax levy. The initial levy that was passed was the $1,030,069.
So the options 0, 1, 2, or 3, we did the maximum at 3, we can go lower. It would be up to your council to make a motion.
Utilizing the dollar figure, please.
I make a motion that we keep it at 987,306.
We have a motion on the floor, do we have a second? I have to ask that 3 times. Do we have a second time, do we have a second for 987,306? I'll ask a third time for 987,306 as a second. Hearing none, there's no second, so that motion failed. Do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion, we set the tax levy at $1,015,814.
Do I have a motion? We have a motion, do we have a second? Second attempt, do we have a second for $1,015,814? I'll ask a third time, do we have a second? Motion failed.
Make a motion, we set the levy at the figures that were used to make this budget at $1,030,000, excuse me,
$1,030,069. Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or questions by the council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Nay. We have one nay.
Nay.
You say nay?
Nay.
So we have a tie vote at this point. So I will cast my vote in favor of the $1,030,069. So that's, do we have those recorded? Thank you. So that passed. Moving on to number 2, motion for general fund revenue and expenses.
So if we're staying on the same slide, council, we're looking at the revenues and expenditures relevant to that tax levy that was just passed. So, need a motion for the $2,862,557 of revenue and the $2,776,250 of expenditures.
Council?
I'll make that motion, I need to repeat the number. Revenue of $2,862,557 and expenditures of $2,776,250.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on, number 3, motion for debt service funds. And that is next page.
Correct.
I think they are what they are.
I believe we can say as presented.
Yes.
And just make sure that the motions includes revenues and expenditures and dollar values as presented.
Council?
I'll make a motion that the bond services with the revenues and expenditures that have been presented is passed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 4, motion for water fund rate increases. This is a 14%, and the revenue and expenditures, you need the dollar amounts stated.
So the first thing we need to do is the percentage rate of increase, and next we'll do revenues and expenditures in dollars.
Correct. Council?
Motion to approve the water fund rate increase as presented. And you want the revenues, did you say?
After, we'll do this one first.
Yeah, as presented.
Do we have a second? Any questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now number 5 would be the water fund revenue and expenses as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve the revenue expenditures the water fund as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6, motion for sewer fund rate increase.
Make a motion that we accept the rate as presented.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 7, this is motion for sewer fund revenue and expense budget.
I'll make that same motion as revenue and expenditures as presented.
Do I have a second? Any more questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8, motion for motor vehicle revenue and expenses as presented.
Motion that we approve the revenue expenditures for the rec fund as presented.
Are we on the liquor store or?
They were just,
They're switched
they're switched
in the presentation.
in the presentation, so,
It's the next page.
The motor vehicle fund?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just,
Yeah.
the slides are just on.
I'll make a motion, we approve the motor vehicle fund revenue and expenditures as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, motion for liquor store revenue expense and budget.
So moved. As presented.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Those are the motions that we have, all that we need at this moment for the budget. And I made that statement on the police department, and if any of you have any other statement, this is your time. Otherwise, our next meeting will be as scheduled on the 24th.
Maybe four people, yeah.
That's for the open meeting?
Yes, sir. Hearing none,
Well,
then,
I'm just gonna say, and I know publicly I've stated before, that I'm in support, standing behind our Moose Lake Police Department 100%. So,
all right.
If I could really quick, what we've been looking at is 3 people, obviously, with a working chief, and I think that's absolutely viable. We prioritize nights, we keep 2 of the 3 on nights, 1 on days, and leave a day shift open, because our criminal complaints are coming in at nights, on nights, they just absolutely are, and that's what needs to be prioritized. We could keep 24-hour night shifts, 12 on, 12 off, 2 guys working, rotating. I feel, we honestly could keep the exact same 4 on, 4 off we're on right now with 3 guys and just have 2 of them work nights, and then whoever ends up being the chief work straight days, and then there'd just be 4 open day shifts that either part-timers could pick up or they would just be open. And looking at that from the county's perspective, they have a lot more people on during the day than they do at night. So if they are running short shifts at night, it's harder for them to get down here to cover, where during the day, they do have more officers on. Granted, a lot of them are office staff, but, so, I mean, I really think we could make it work with 3. I know it's a monetary thing. I know that's what it comes down to, and I completely understand that. So whichever way it goes, I understand, but we could absolutely make it work with 3 down here if we're able to figure out monetarily.
Counselor, so.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I guess at the moment, I would like to hold off at the moment and like to hear a little more on
Community
city.
input.
I know we're tight, but guess myself, I'm not quite ready to say go county at the moment. So that's where I stand at the moment.
And I just want to point out, I'm not asking for a vote tonight. I know that we have a public hearing in January. I'm just stating what we could look, you know, something we could look at. So I just want to throw that out there. I know that this is, you know, there's a public hearing January 24th, so.
I felt that the county, I mean, not the county, the city and the council should know right where I stand. As a mayor, I mean, I should make sure all of you know that and understand why, and why I made that decision to go with our own. I don't make motions. In the 19 years, I've maybe made one or two motions, and they were during emergency time, when the city was in a flood situation or something. So I won't make that motion, just so that all of you understand that. So,
I guess I wonder exactly what we will be putting on the cards that we sent out.
the canary for keeping our department. No, I don't know yet. I can't remember what we stated, what we wanted. We did have a statement.
So where it stands right now is council had asked that I request a proposal for 3 deputies, and as we've all heard tonight, I don't know that request is going to be met. So at this point in time, it's a determination of whether or not, you know, the poll would essentially be 4 deputies from the county or 3 of our own officers. So the thought that we could potentially have a 3 versus 3 apples versus apples scenario comparison is not feasible at this time.
Well, Kelly stated she is not going to.
Correct.
I think the gentleman, did you want to speak if you come up to the podium?
Yeah, well, as you brought that up, I think, looking at the county, they're getting off on the wrong foot to start with. The contract should be what the city wants, not what she thinks the city needs. And from that respect, I am an advocate of the police department here in town, so.
Thank you. Any other statements from the council? Hearing none, then we will move on. I think we're done with all of the new business. There's a lot of reports and correspondence. I'm just going to read them. It's up to you to do the homework on that yourselves. If you have any questions on any of them, please bring them back to the council here or to the administrator. The one, 8A is DOC Minnesota Correctional Facility Moose Lake Building Air Notification Letter. B is the hometown Ace Hardware Notice of Acquisition Letter. What was that for?
The local Ace Hardware has changed hands. They're being acquired by Hometown Ace. And so
Gotcha.
that letter was just the notice of acquisition.
That they were sold.
Correct.
Okay. C is a Fond du Lac Housing and Community Needs Assessment. D is a Flattering Hood 2024 Legal Services Rate Notification. So everyone should definitely read that one. E is a Carleton County Drug Prevention 12.04.2023 Coalition Meeting Minutes. F is a DOC DHS Citizens Advisory Committee Meeting Event January 23rd, 2024. G is the Moosehorn Concept Scorecards, Bill Carlson, on his review of technology. We did want that in the official record, so we put it in. 9, the committee and board meeting minutes. A, the Moose Lake Area Fire Protection District meeting minutes, November 14th. B B is the Park and Recreational Board meeting minutes from November sixth, 2023. Going on to 10, announcements. Regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, January 10th at 4 p.m. right here. Now, we have to do a reorganization as part of that meeting.
Correct.
We normally do the reorganization first in the meeting and then we go on.
Excellent.
That's where one of you get to do the new weed inspection.
Tree and weed inspector.
Yes. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, December 20th, 12 p.m. City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission regular meeting Tuesday, December 19th, 1 p.m. Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, January 8th, 11 a.m. Hillside Manor Office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, January 9th, 6:30 p.m. at the Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park Board, Monday, January 8th, 5 p.m. The City Council right here. Council members, administration, do you have anything to add? Oh, we have to mention this is Paula's last night with us.
Thank you for your
Her
service.
speech. So we appreciate all you've done all these many years. How many has it been?
Over 20.
Long time.
Are you moving on to bigger, better cities?
Montana.
Montana.
Oh.
But thank you very much and we appreciate all you've done all these years. You've done an excellent job. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.